Okay, are you guys ready? Chapter 6, Footsteps at Night. So remember, George is on the path to taking Charles King food. He snuck out and he's trying to stay in the shadows so that he stays safe. Joris had so seldom been out at night, he hadn't realized what a strange world he was stepping into. The moonlight threw dark shadows, and in its pale shimmer, even familiar objects looked weird and a little frightening. Every sound seemed magnified. When the bomber stopped coming for a while, he heard the croaking of the frogs, the sighing of the wind through the reeds, and the lazy lapping of water against the banks. Joris could hear himself breathing. He even imagined he could hear his own heartbeats. He tried to walk as quietly as he could, but he could not help the grass swishing under his wooden shoes or an occasional pebble ticking against his shoes. Because remember, they're the clogs. It all seemed so loud in the strange whispery silver of the night. Once he thought he heard footsteps behind him. He caught his breath and stopped, but he must have imagined it, for he only heard the wind rustling the leaves of a willow tree and a little bird chirping in its sleep. Joris was very glad when he finally reached the old mill. He felt as if the walk had lasted for hours. After waiting and listening for a moment, he gave 3 short knocks on the door to warn Charles. "It's me, Joris," he whispered. Charles had been waiting impatiently, faint with hunger. Joris spread out his repast on the floor in the living room, on top of the old towel which he had grabbed from the rack in the kitchen. He felt sorry that he had nothing more appetizing than 3 cold bluish potatoes, a rather frayed pancake, 3/4 of a slice of bread, and some earth-stained fruit and vegetables. It did not seem a feast fit for a splendid warrior of the sky, but Charles did not complain. He settled down on the floor. Joris watched, amazed at how fast he ate. They were sitting in the pool of moonlight which filtered through the small windows. The cat came mewing for her share, and Charles divided one of the potatoes with her. He ate all the rest to the last apple pip, and then gave a satisfied grunt and stretched. "Oh, good," he said, which was near enough to the Dutch word to be understood by Joris. Joris was just going to pick up the empty basket and leave for home. His eyelids were prickling from lack of sleep when a noise outside stiffened him. It was the sound of wooden shoes clomping over the rickety bridge. "Somebody's coming," he whispered. "Quick, hide." Charles was already looking around wildly. Joris pushed him into the press bed and shut the doors. Taking his clogs in his hands, he tiptoed into the passage and hid behind the staircase. He heard footsteps going around the mill. Someone was rattling the locked door. Could it be Leendert Schneiderhans? Joris felt prickles go down his spine. Now the unknown person was trying the other door. Joris held a clog ready in his hand. He was going to hit him, whoever it was. He would defend himself and his aviator if he had to. The door opened slowly, and a head appeared. It was too dark to see the face, but Joris lowered his arm. It wasn't Schneiderhans. Schneiderhans was taller. The figure entered anxiously and inched along the passage. It seemed as scared as Joris was. Suddenly, it gave a sneeze. Joris recognized the sound. "Dirk Jan?" he whispered eagerly. Dirk Jan stopped and let out a sigh. He looked about him. "Oh, Joris," he whispered back. Joris emerged from under the stairs. Dirk Jan grabbed him roughly by the arm. "Joris," he scolded. "What on earth are you doing here? I found the bed empty and was just in time to see you trotting down the dike with the basket. What are you up to, and why didn't you tell me about it?" He was angry and relieved at the same time. "I wanted to," stammered Joris through chattering teeth. Now that it was all over, he realized just how terrified he had been. I'll show you." Greatly mystified, Dirk Jan followed Joris into the living room. "It's all right, Charles," said Joris. "It's only Dirk Jan." Charles didn't know who Dirk Jan was, but it sounded reassuring. So he opened the doors of the press bed and poked out his rough, unshaven face, on which the moonlight painted weird shadows. He looked so much like a gargoyle that Dirk Jan gave a yelp and jumped backwards. Okay, so let me see if I can't pull this picture up for you guys to see. Give it a second. So there, he's in the press bed. See how the beds have doors like that? Okay. Okay. Oh, he's only an aviator, said Joris, pulling his brother toward his new friend, who, even in the uncertain light, noticed the resemblance between the two boys and drew the right conclusions. Sliding out of the bed, he gave a nod of welcome. Dirk Jan had learned some English at school, so he was able to hold a somewhat stunted conversation with Charles. The first thing Charles wanted to know was where he was and what had happened to his comrades. So Charles doesn't know that the other three guys got arrested by the Nazis. So he had a map, and Dirk Jan showed him the general area in which he had come down. We're here to the east of Leyden, explained Dirk Jan, pointing to the spot. It was harder to tell what had happened to the other aviators, especially as Dirk Jan couldn't remember the English word for captured. He used engaged instead, which led to some confusion and made Charles think for a moment that his friends had gone wildly and hastily courting. However, when it was cleared up, Charles understood that the Germans had taken his friends as well as some of their hosts. He became very upset. He walked up and down the room in great agitation, so that the cobwebs trembled above him, and a spider hastily let herself down by a thread to investigate the commotion. You wait. I'll get them, he was muttering, clenching his fists, but Dirk Jan implored him not to do anything rash. The Germans are dangerous, he said seriously. They can do terrible things to you and to all of us, because they have all the weapons. We have nothing. Charles stopped pacing and looked down at Dirk Jan. Yes, you have, he said quietly. You have right on your side. That's the biggest weapon. But it doesn't help much, said Dirk Jan. Not when the German tanks come. Charles was gazing over the heads and frowning. Please, he begged, can you get me some old clothes? Dirk Jan said that he would try, and he would bring more food too. But then you must promise not to go out in that uniform. Charles understood and nodded. He took off his gold watch and offered it as payment, but Dirk Jan and George shook their heads vigorously. You are our friend, Dirk Jan told him. The aviator thanked them both, shook hands solemnly. Then the boys slipped out of the dark mill and into the silver polder land. You should have told me, Dirk Jan whispered as they walked home. It was much too dangerous for you to handle this on your own. Well, I didn't want Mother and Father to know, Joris whispered back. Because of Mr. Poot, Dirk Jan nodded. But you need me. Joris admitted it. I'm glad you came. He said it. I was very scared. Dirk Jan now wanted to know the whole story, and so Joris told him everything, taking care not to raise his voice too much. At home, no one had noticed their absence. They crept quietly into bed and were soon asleep, comforted by each other's presence, while in the old giant, Charles and the cat were snoring peacefully behind the doors of the press bed. So that is the end of chapter 6, and our next chapter is called New Clothes for Charles. So I will see you guys next time. I hope you're enjoying it. I sure am. Love you guys.